Hello and welcome to this Dark Angels Codex review, where today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Dark Angels Codex. A massive thank you, obviously, to Games Workshop for supplying us with a preview copy of the Codex and a preview copy of the new Deathwing Assault Box.
Yeah, we've collected the thoughts of the whole team, and we've got a really well-rounded analysis of this supplement.
So the first thing we're going to look at is going to be datasheet changes. And then we'll take a look at the new detachments. So let's start with some datasheet changes. First of all, there's a few datasheets missing from the index, right?
That's right, and some big units have gone now. We've lost the Talon Master.
Right, and this was your Ravenwing captain?
This was essentially a Ravenwing character in a land speeder.
Ah, sure.
Now, it's obvious why this has left the range, because the model isn't supported anymore. So I suppose we could have expected units that weren't supported in the normal Space Marine Codex to leave the book here. So there's no Talon Master anymore.
Right.
Which may lead to issues down the line. We'll discuss. There is a Ravenwing themed detachment, so we can cover kind of some of the losses there, but a very popular unit now gone. In addition to that, we've lost the Deathwing Strike Master. Less of a blow, but it was kind of a lieutenant for the Deathwing.
Yeah.
And they don't really have an equivalent in Terminator armor. So that another blow. And then finally, the Deathwing Command Squad's gone.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, that, right?
I understand that it's not the new Terminator box set,
Yeah.
but neither are Terminator Assault Squads, and they're still in the normal Space Marine Codex.
Yeah.
So this was a surprise.
Yeah.
And I think this will be felt.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, you've got an Ancient, which you can use as a Terminator Ancient. You've got a Champion now, which kind of maybe you can use as a Captain, but they're on the wrong base size.
Yeah.
And then you've got an Apothecary, which you just can't use. So a loss felt there, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who maybe would have converted the new Terminators up to be a Deathwing Command Squad.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think it sucks when you've had a collection of models and now playing in the new Codex, you won't be able to use them in game. But hopefully you can find some uses with these characters you've just mentioned.
Absolutely, and I'm sure they'll join the Legends collection. So if you want to play with them, you can.
Yeah.
Just don't expect them to be in your match play games.
Yeah.
The Ravenwing Command Squad's still in there, and we'll cover that later.
So the first data sheet I want us to take a look at is Lionel Johnson, the Primarch of the Dark Angels themselves. He's had some significant changes, hasn't he, Mike?
He has, yes, and they're nerfs.
Yeah.
No beating around the bush here. Big blows to the Lion. Actually, a little bit sad about this.
Yeah, I don't...
I don't think it was warranted.
No, that's what I was going to say. Is I don't think it's a warranted change. So let's go on to the changes. So the first one is he's lost -1 to wound.
Yes.
And the second one is his sweep profile has now changed from damage 2 to damage 1.
Yeah, so he used to have that 16 attacks at damage 2, which could pick up most Space Marine units, threaten a lot of characters, was really strong. But now if you send the Lion into a unit of 5 Space Marines and you don't use his 6 stronger attacks, you might not kill the unit.
Yeah.
So massive blow from his efficiency there. Fight first, obviously it was a terror to charge because he'd hit you first and he'd probably kill the unit. But losing that sweep means he's far less likely to kill you before you get to hit him.
This is the weird thing, right? It's obviously going to come down to points values of the characters. He still hits reasonably hard. He still has fights first. Still got a 3+ invulnerable save. Still deals mortals on 6s when he saves. So there's still quite a few strengths to the character. But yeah, obviously losing those 2 rules has massively damaged his character, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he's much easier to kill.
Yeah.
And he's nowhere near as good at that output.
Yeah.
So big blow for the Lion.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what his points are, but I don't know that he'll be showing up that much in competitive play.
I agree. But some other changes we've got Asmodai and Ezekiel. They've unchanged in terms of stat line and profile and everything, but what has changed is the units they can lead.
Yes.
So what units are they now available to lead?
So they have the same options across them all. They're Primaris. Ezekiel's not Primaris.
Right.
Because so much of the Firstborn range has been dropped.
Yeah.
He leads a lot of them. So Assault Intercessors, Blade Guard Veterans, Hellblasters, Infernus, Inner Circle Companions, which of course is a brand new data sheet.
Yeah.
Intercessor Squad, Stern Guard Veterans, and Tactical Squad.
Right.
Now, what I will say first here is that I'm actually quite disappointed that a character like Asmodai has a new model, but they haven't taken the opportunity to change his rules.
I agree.
Because they're a little bit lackluster. It doesn't feel like his abilities really mesh with the rest of his attacks.
Sure.
Like he gets benefits from killing characters, but he doesn't have precision. So it's kind of I don't really know how to feel about him.
Yeah.
And then Ezekiel could have potentially had a rework. Arguably, Ezekiel is probably still the best of the two.
Yeah, I think I would agree that Ezekiel's the better one. It's one of them things, isn't it? Is when you get a new model, you kind of expect some rules changes half the time.
Yeah.
And it's also almost a perfect chance to make them changes.
Yeah.
What would you have liked to have seen for like Asmodai, for instance? Because obviously he's had the brand new model, hasn't he? So what would you have liked to have seen maybe on his rules?
At the very least, an extra wound.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like literally the bare minimum I would have expected. An extra wound, potentially a better save, maybe a tweak to some of his feared interrogator rules that do battle shock, but only against character units. So I would have liked to see him maybe give his unit precision or something, have precision himself. I don't know, +1 to hit for his unit against characters, something like that. But we've not had any changes there.
Yeah, exactly.
Ezekiel's interesting because he can now give out +1 attack to a better unit than the first ones.
I mean, it's cool because there's, even though we're saying there's some downsides to them, there are some really cool tricks you can use them for and stuff with the detachments that are in this book. So we will come on to them, but as of changes, not really many there. But Belial, he has had a new model.
Fantastic new model.
But he has had a nerf. So what was his rule beforehand?
Okay, so after melee attacks allocated to Belial, he can roll dice and inflict mortal wounds back on the unit that attacked him.
Yeah.
This used to be on 2s. It's now essentially on 4s. So it's significantly reduced his sort of punch back.
Yeah.
But yet again, disappointed that there's no changes to this new model.
Yeah.
I would have loved for him to go up to maybe AP3, more wounds again. So his leader ability gives his unit critical hits have precision. I mean, that's mediocre at best.
Yeah.
I don't think you're taking that.
No.
So, there's missed opportunities.
So onto the units next. We do have Deathwing Terminators. So have there been any changes here?
Yes, and I would say overall probably a downgrade.
Okay.
So now you're basically the box set of Terminators, but with an upgrade sprue.
Okay, right.
So previously we could take Thunderhammers, Lightning Claws, a mix of weapons in the unit. Now we're locked to that Stormbolt or Power Fist, and then 1 in every 5 models can have a heavy weapon.
Right.
They can now have a plasma cannon.
Sure.
As one of those heavy weapons. It's not in addition to like the Cyclones or anything. And to be honest, the profile for it's not really worth it in terms of competitive play, right? That's the main changes. They get to ignore modifiers.
I love that. Yeah.
Ballistic weapon skill, hit rolls, all the time.
Yeah.
Against any target, but they keep their +1 to hit against the Oath target, and they get Teleport Homer.
Yeah, they're basically just an upgraded version of a Terminator squad in Space Marine Codex.
Yeah, and they're definitely worth it over the normal Terminators.
Oh, hands down. Next one, and this is the big one, Deathwing Knights.
Okay.
So let's dive into these. So what changes have we got here, Mike?
So gorgeous new models. Profile changes. They've still got -1 damage. They've gained Teleport Homer, which is quite nice. They've still got the Watcher in the Dark. They're 4 wounds apiece still, with that 4 up inv and that 2 up save, toughness 5, all you'd expect from a Terminator.
Yep.
Their Maces of Absolution are now damage 2.
Right.
And they used to be damage 3. That's huge.
Massive.
And I suspect Darkangels players would not be happy with that.
Yeah, no, of course.
And I wouldn't be. Like, I understand the downgrade, because it doesn't make sense to me that they are damage 3.
Yeah.
But the fact it's like, you've got 4 attacks at strength 6, AP 1, damage 2. I mean, that is just straight up worse than a Power Fist.
Yeah.
It's 1 more attack, but it's only AP 1 and it's only strength 6.
Yeah, you would just take a Power Fist.
So that's a bit of a shame. The Flail is essentially renamed. It's just called Great Weapon of the Unforgiven. It's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So sustain, dev wounds, AP 2 damage.
So the other big thing as well with Deathwing Knights is the unit size has changed now. So these guys can only go into unit sizes of 5. That's the maximum you can have in a squad. So gone are the days of 10 Deathwing Knights infiltrating. That unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what boat you're in.
So this is a change I think was justified.
Yeah.
I think the player experience is improved by Deathwing Knights only being in 5s. They should be a rarer, more elite unit. Having 20 wounds and all of them are like -1 damage, that's okay.
Yeah.
Having 40 wounds of Terminators. With that -1 damage, that profile, the efficiency of using stratagems on a big unit. So yeah, I'm glad they've changed that.
Yeah, definitely. I think justifiable change. But obviously, if you've got loads of Deathwing Knights, I can understand not being able to use
if you've got more than 15.
Yeah, I feel for you. I think a really cool change, though, Ravenwing Command Squads.
This, I think, is the shining light of the Codex.
Yes, definitely.
These guys are a leader, which is a massive change. They can lead Outriders or Ravenwing Black Knights. And the character in the unit is the Ravenwing Champion.
Yep.
Which is even cooler. So the unit still retains its abilities, the bringing back a model, can't bring back characters or ATVs. And before you think of that really nasty trick.
Yeah.
+1 OC to the unit, which will make all of the models in that unit OC 3.
Yep.
And then you can get +1 to your advance and charge rolls, and you can heroic intervene for free. So we retain all of those. The data sheets haven't really changed. They are 4 wins each now.
Yeah.
Just to represent the fact that they're kind of characters. But this is very interesting.
I mean, the fact you can give them enhancements now is the big thing here, right? And when we come to the detachment, you're going to see why. You're probably going to want to take multiple of these.
Yes.
For competitively, there's some really nice combos you can do with this. Now it's a leader unit, which is important. So nothing else Ravenwing has changed other than the Ravenwing Landspeeder Vengeance. So this has had a unsuspected nerf. It's a bit random.
This one's weird. So the damage from the Plasma Storm Battery has gone from 2 down to 1.
Yeah.
And the overcharged version's gone down from 3 to 2.
Yeah.
Same number of shots, same other stats, same ability, everything else is the same. I didn't really see these a huge amount in competitive play anyway.
I've never seen anyone use this model in my life.
So I don't really know why it's changed.
No.
Those plasma cannons on that model are massive.
Yeah, absolutely huge.
So, yeah.
Next, Mike, is actually a brand new data sheet. So there's no changes here because it's brand new.
The Inner Circle Companions. So these guys are kind of like Blade Guard.
Yeah.
They've got the same stat line, except they're OC2. So they'll be better at taking objectives and potentially holding them. 3 wounds each, no invulnerable save, because they don't have shields. Shame that one.
Yeah.
And already, I can see your... Do I bother then with them over Blade Guard?
Yeah.
Well, let's have a look at the rest of their stuff.
Yeah, so what are their rules, their actual datasheet rule?
So they get -1 to be hit if they're being led by a character. Now, the only characters that can lead them are ones that can lead Stern Guard veterans. So it's quite a lot of characters.
Yeah, it's quite a few, yeah.
Each time a model in this unit makes an attack against a character unit, you get +1 to hit as well. So this is nice. Obviously, it doesn't stack with the Lion's ability to have an aura of +1 to hit, but it does get them to hit on 2s. To be honest, kind of hoping that they'd hit on 2s anyway.
Yeah.
Being Inner Circle Companions.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they've got 2 attacks, different profiles with their weapons. They've got the Calibanite Greatsword. They can have a strike or a sweep. Now, the strike is 4 attacks at strength 6, AP1, 2 damage. And the sweep is 4 attacks at strength 6, AP1, 1 damage.
Okay.
So the damage is the only difference there.
Right, and...
But they get some special rules. So you get lethal hits on the strike, and you get sustained hits 2 on the sweep. Okay,
the sustained hits 2 sounds quite nice, actually.
Yeah, so it does seem like quite a versatile attack profile.
Yeah.
I just really wish the strike was AP2.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem like... I mean, damage 2 is great, but at the same time, surely it should just bump up that AP a little bit more, or maybe the strength a little bit more.
Now, if you're into your map hammer,
then
let us know in the comments which one you think's better into certain profiles.
Yeah.
Because I actually think the profiles are so similar, it's difficult to make a decision.
Yeah.
If you're fighting Space Marines, what profile do you choose?
I think it's a weird one as well, because how do the lethal hits or the sustained hits too impact your decision?
Yeah.
Like what's really going to be the better one to go with? Yeah, I think let's go back to the invulnerable save on these guys.
Yes.
To me, it's a blaring weakness of the squad. I would like to have seen them with a 4+ invul, given Iron Halos. That probably would have been a cooler thing. Maybe.
I could see that impacted.
Yeah.
We don't have -1 to wound if there's a character leading the -1 to wound, which is kind of what you'd normally expect.
Yeah.
For like a really, a bodyguard kind of unit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, company heroes have it, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I was kind of hoping these would fulfill a similar role. They're 3 to 6. Just add that in there, so just like Blade Guard.
Yeah.
Now, there are a couple of ways you can get 4+ inwards on these. You can have Azrael in there. You can have a Librarian in there as well, which does give a 4+ inward to the unit.
Sure.
So you've got a couple of ways that you can make these work. These would work great with critical hits on 5s.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I don't actually know of any way you can get that in melee, even in the normal Space Marine Codex. So if you find a way, let me know.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're a difficult one to justify.
Yeah, because Blade Guard, they've proven over time that they're a good unit, right? Yes. So why change something that isn't seemingly going to improve that? So overall, we've had significant nerfs, I think it's fair to say. But there are some positives in this, isn't there?
Yes, I would say overall, a bit upsetting.
Yeah.
Either due to the changes being negative,
yeah,
or there being no changes to some units that they could have changed. But we've got a little bit of silver lining with the Ravenwood Command and the newer selection of units that can be led by things like Ezekiel, Asmodai, etc.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the best thing for us to do is move on to detachments next, and we can maybe improve a few things here, right?
We'll get over the bad bit first.
Yeah, exactly. Right, cool. Right, onto the detachments next then.
Let's take a moment to appreciate Colourforge, our fantastic sponsor. Their range of spray paints has become our go-to for making our miniatures come to life quickly and efficiently. The quality and variety of colours they offer are truly unmatched, providing a smooth application for stunning effects every time. Check out Colourforge for your next hobby project.
So, first detachment we're going to look at is the existing one, the Unforgiven Task Force. Wasn't very good in the index.
No.
Arguably one of the worst in the game. So have there been any changes, Mike?
There's been 2 changes.
Okay.
One of them is one of the stratagems, which used to be -1 damage, done in the charge phase. It's now -1 to be wounded, but it's 2 CP. So arguably a downgrade.
Definitely a downgrade. That should, in my opinion, should just be a 1 CP strat.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's only going to affect in one phase.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
And then an enhancement got a name changed.
Right, sure. So we've not seen any changes.
Yeah, so we're not going to go into all of the stratagems, etc.
No.
Yeah.
I think there's some things to be said, though. First of all, the detachment rule, obviously, you gain benefits from being battle shocked. It's possibly the worst in the game. I think it's quite fair to say.
It's pretty bad. It's definitely taking on the Annihilation Legion for Necrons.
Yeah.
In terms of how bad it is.
Yeah.
Look, all they needed to do was give you the option for your unit to choose to be battle shocked.
Yeah.
It's enough of a sacrifice, losing OC and access to stratagems, if you now become battle shocked and get a couple of other buffs. Unfortunately, you're relying on losing enough models before you get a detachment rule.
Yeah.
Which is, let's be honest, terrible.
It is terrible.
And you only get some of the abilities from your strats or your enhancements if you are battle shocked.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah, it's not the best. So I will say this, though. I have found a few things that would work. I think some of the stratagems are really nice. So they do have the stratagem Fire Discipline, which I think is a very good stratagem because it's not even affecting battle shocked unit. You just get the ability, right?
Yeah.
Which gives you heavy, assault, and ignores cover. So those 3 abilities anyway, is really strong actually, I think.
There's a good set of stratagems here.
Yeah,
I'll give them that. You got that shooting buff there on your special rules. You can shoot back for 1 CP, which is quite cheap. You can fall back and shoot and charge, which is a stratagem you always want in an attachment if you can get it. And then you've got lethal hits as well, potentially.
Yep.
And if you're battle shocked, some other stuff.
Yeah, but that bit, so it's just getting lethal hits is decent. Yeah. So there are some little things you can do, but I think overall, why would you take it over Gladius?
Just take a Space Marine Codex attachment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. Right, let's go on to positives.
Okay.
So we've discussed a lot of negatives.
Yes.
But there are some really cool things here with the Inner Circle Task Force, aren't there, Mike? So
yes.
This is your Deathwing detachment. So your Terminator heavy detachment. The units that actually have now been conferred the Deathwing keywords. So we have a list here. So what are they, Mike?
So all Terminators, of course. Blade Guard, Ancient Blade Guards veterans, Stern Guard veterans, Vanguard veterans with jump packs. All of the Land Raiders, all of the Repulsors, and all Dreadnoughts all get the Deathwing keyword.
Awesome. That's actually a really cool change, I think.
I agree.
So let's look at the detachment rule. What is it?
Right, so start your command phase. In addition to, obviously, Oath of Moment, you're going to pick an objective marker, and then until the start of your next command phase, any of your Deathwing infantry that are targeting an enemy unit within range of the objective marker, called the vowed objective, get +1 to their wound rolls.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I would have liked to have seen here, though, it not to just affect Deathwing infantry.
I think it would have been very good if it had affected Dreadnoughts and Land Raiders, but it wouldn't have been too strong. Because it's one objective, right?
This is it. I don't think it would be too strong, personally. I think what you're looking at here is a 6-inch diameter on the board, or circle on the board, where you're getting that rule. It's not like your opponent can play around it quite well. So I do think it's not going to break the game, giving a Land Raider +1 to wound on a specific objective. But I think very strong rule, detachment rule.
Yeah, absolutely. Terminators, your Deathwing Knights, we know they're strength 6. All of these units can really benefit from +1 to wound.
Yeah.
And, we'll talk about this a lot more on the Masterclass when it drops as well. But you can now confer the Deathwing keyword using some of those characters mentioned at the start: Ezekiel, Asmodai, Lazarus, Azrael. They all have the Deathwing keyword. So if they lead a unit, that unit gets the Deathwing keyword and can start benefiting from things.
Hellblasters, looking at you. Okay, Mike, so we got a set of 4 enhancements here. So what are the enhancements?
So we've got the first enhancements, Champion of the Deathwing.
Yep.
That's going to give us lethal hits on melee weapons for the bearer. And we get crits of 5 on the vowed objective just for the bearer.
Okay, cool. So you can make a character a bit more punchy.
Yeah, absolutely. If you wanted to represent this, maybe you could use that Deathwing champion from the command squad.
Yeah.
It's a nice opportunity to get that on the table.
Yeah, I like it. Next one.
Eye of the Unseen. So all of these are Deathwing model only, of course. Each time you target the bearer's unit with a stratagem, on a 5-up you get CP. If your unit was on your objective, on a 4-up you get CP.
Probably won't see this as much because most of the time you probably will take Azrael.
And it won't stack.
So yeah, okay, right. Next one.
Singular Will.
Yep.
Bearer's unit piles in or consolidates can go an extra 3.
I like this.
So this is quite an interesting one, just to get you moving around the board a bit more.
Yeah.
I actually quite like this potentially on Inner Circle Companions because they're OC2.
Yeah, definitely. Next one is Deathwing Assault. So what does this one do?
Right, so Deathwing model with Deep Strike. The bearer's unit can be set up using the Deep Strike ability in the reinforcement step of your first, second, or third movement phase, regardless of any mission rules. Okay, so you can't rapid ingress turn 1.
No.
That's really important because it says specifically your first reinforcement step. But you can come down turn 1.
Yeah. Pretty decent on some Terminators.
Yes, absolutely. So you can either go on with those 10 turn 1 if you want to. That's a build you can do. Or you've got some more tactical ideas and tune into the Masterclass for that.
Yeah, definitely. I think overall, though, that's 3 good enhancements. I think the Eye of the Unseen, you're probably not going to see. It's going to be unseen. Sorry, I had to get that one in there somehow, mate.
Yeah.
But I think the other 3 definitely have a place. The best one for me, obviously, Deathwing Assault. I think that's a fantastic...
if you see any of them, it's going to be that one.
Cool. So we've got 6 stratagems. So should we go through them? I think worth saying, for both detachments, one of those stratagems is Armour of Contempt.
Yeah, and it's still about tactics.
Still -1 AP, used in the shooting or fight phase. So, still really good stratagem. But what's the first new stratagem?
We have Martial Mastery. 1 CP. Epic Deed. I know you like this one.
I love this one.
So, fight phase. Deathwing infantry unit. Until the end of the phase, you can reroll 1s to wound. If your unit is within range of the Val marker, then you reroll the wound roll instead.
That's cheeky. I love that.
I really like this. I have one complaint, which I'll come to at the end of these stratagems.
Okay, right, cool. Right, we'll come to complaints at the end.
Yeah.
But I think that's a fantastic stratagem, considering all of your Deathwing is combat orientated. Getting reroll wounds when you've got Oath of Moment as well. Old Oaths is back, baby.
Yeah, basically. You got your Blade Guard vets, strength 5, Inner Circle, strength 6, Terminator, strength 8, and your Deathwing Knights that are strength 6 as well.
Yeah.
So getting all of those to reroll wounds with the +1 to wound, massive.
Yeah, really, really good at increasing your damage efficiency. So next stratagem, no, mate?
Duty unto Death. So this is 1 command point, strategic ploy, Deathwing unit, so any Deathwing unit.
Yep.
Fight on death on a 4.
Okay.
If your unit's within range, so your unit, not the model.
Yep.
If your unit's within range of the vowed objective marker, it's on a 3-up instead.
Okay. All right. Fight and death on 3s, potentially, is okay. Pretty decent.
It's not bad. 1 CP on
Yeah.
3s is you should get the majority of your unit fighting on death.
Yeah, for 1 CP it's fine. I'm glad it's 1 CP because I'm looking at like the Gladius task force, right? And you have fight on death there, but that's 2 CP, but you always fight on death. There's no roll involved. So I think being 1 CP, I'm glad they've got the cap of having to roll a dice for it. Yeah. That's cool. Right, next one.
Relic Teleportarium.
Right.
Very cool. Justified here. This is 1 CP in your movement phase. Any Deathwing unit that has Deep Strike, set up just over 3 inches away from the enemy.
Fantastic. So Deathwing Assault enhancement. You can Deathwing Assault turn 1 and Deep Strike within 3 inches for a CP.
Brilliant.
Love it.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Absolutely love it. I think it's a fantastic stratagem to really put some pressure on your opponent.
Yeah, I think it really helps the detachment because it focuses so heavily on the elite units.
Yes.
You now have this that lets your elite units start scoring tactical objectives or even fixed objectives much more efficiently as well.
Yeah.
So it helps out that side of the army.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Next one.
Wrath of the Lion.
Okay.
Now, this is 1 command point. It's not about a tactic, and you do it in your charge phase. What happens here is one of your infantry units charges.
Right.
Then you're going to roll a dice for each of the models in your unit, and you pick an enemy unit in engagement range. On a 4-up, you're going to do a mortal wound. On a 3-up, if that enemy unit is on the vowed objective marker, but it's to a cap of 3 mortal wounds.
Let's start with the positives. This is still it for Terminator squads that don't get grenades. It's now a way to do some mortal wounds.
Yeah.
Being capped at 3, I would have liked it to have been 5 or 6, realistically.
Yeah.
But I think it's still a chance to do some mortal wounds on the charge, which, let's be honest, is going to help still in certain situations. I'm not saying it's an amazing stratagem, but I think it just gives you that extra punch if needed, right? If you have the CP.
Yeah, look, if there is like 1 or 2 models that are wounded in front of you and there's another unit behind them, you could charge, do the mortal wounds potentially, and then pile into the unit behind the one you've just killed with the mortals. But as we've said, you referred to it, just throw a grenade.
Yeah.
If you want the mortal wounds, just use your blade guard, your stern guard, your vanguard. You're in a circle. Even if you've got a character in there, just throw a grenade.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think this works really well with Singular Will, though, the enhancement for pile in and consolidate 3 inches. So you, as you said, you can maybe hurt something that is on 1 or 2 wounds and pile in and consolidate that little bit extra after doing the damage to something else. So there are plays with it, but I agree.
Yes.
Grenade is just a better option. Cool. Last one.
Unmatched Fortitude.
Right.
This is a battle tactic.
Okay.
Now, 1 command point in your in your opponent's shooting phase, if they shoot you and their strength is higher than your toughness, they're going to have a -1 to their wound rolls. It's quite good.
Yeah.
So this one is akin to the old, if you're a veteran of the game, transhuman.
Yep.
Because most of the weapons, so toughness 5 means that anything that's not strength 10 or higher is only going to wound you on 4s.
Yes.
Which is great for keeping you guys alive. Deathwing Knights, 4 wounds apiece, -1 damage. It works quite well.
Yeah.
And it's going to keep your inner circle alive because they've got -1 to hit and now potentially -1 to wound. Keep your blade guard, etc. alive. So that's probably one of the... Well, it's the best defensive stratagem.
Well, Armour Contempt is probably the best, right? I think Armour Contempt is probably the best in the game. But
true.
Let's be honest. I do agree with you though that it's definitely going to help you with one of your weaknesses, which is being shot.
Yes.
Which is everyone's weakness.
Yeah, but because it's such a slow army, usually it does make sense.
Yeah, definitely. So let's look at this overall then, because the Inner Circle Task Force, I think, is a pretty decent detachment.
Yeah, it's a good detachment. It's not really comparable to a normal Space Marine one, which I really, really like.
Yeah.
So if you are playing Deathwing, this is going to be the best way to play Deathwing.
Yes.
To their true potential. So yeah, definitely get excited about the Inner Circle detachment. Lots of things to play with. It's kind of confirmed as well that Sternguard veterans are Deathwing. I know that was kind of on the fence.
Yeah.
And Vanguard vets. So really lets you expand your Deathwing range of miniatures too.
And yeah, the rules, they just have it has a really fun play style. I love the fact you can just pick an objective and you interact with the battlefield. I love, like when the acquisition mana pool came out for the AdMech, I really liked the concept of it. I just didn't think it was delivered in a competitive manner, I think is the best way of putting it, right? But I think this definitely, it can do.
Yeah, it's got teeth.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, we've got one last detachment to look at, which is the Ravenwing one, the Company of Hunters. So what is the detachment rule here?
Right, so this is big. Adeptus Astartes units from your army are eligible to shoot in a turn which they advanced or fell back.
Adeptus Astartes.
Adeptus Astartes, not Ravenwing.
Yeah.
So your entire collection of Darkangels can fall back or advance and shoot. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That is probably one of the strongest detachment rules available in the game as a whole.
Yeah.
So this is where, ignore the Unforgiven task force. If you really want to play Green Wing and you really want to play a Dark Angels detachment, then this is probably the one.
Yeah.
And you can start looking at slotting in Ravenwing, even Deathwing,
yeah.
In this detachment.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. But what is Ravenwing? Can we just clarify what Ravenwing are? So what units actually get the Ravenwing keyword?
Absolutely. So mounted.
Yeah.
Also important to note that Outriders become battle line in this detachment. Then you've also got vehicles that have fly. So any of the Storm Ravens, more importantly, Storm Speeders.
Yes.
But you've got a few options there.
Awesome. Well, let's look at some enhancements. So what's the first one, mate?
Mastercrafted weapon.
Okay, right. Original name.
Really original.
Yeah.
So it gives you melee weapons precision.
Yeah.
Now, all of these are Ravenwing model only.
Okay.
Which means that it's a chaplain on bike or the new Ravenwing champion. Because it's a character now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing more to say on that. Precision.
No. Yeah.
To be honest, surprised doesn't have it already because he's a champion.
Yeah, normally the champions have precision.
Mounted strategist.
Right.
Bearer's unit can charge in a turn in which it advanced and fell back.
Oh.
So that's good.
I love that rule.
That's really good. Outriders auto advance 6.
Oh.
The champion gives you that +1 to your charge.
Yeah.
The +1 to advance won't stack because you auto advance 6, you don't roll.
Yeah.
But you get +1 to charge. So there's some real strong plays with that one. Master of Maneuver. What this lets you do is your unit doesn't count as points towards strat reserve.
Cool.
Because you can get some quite big, hefty units in there with these mounted ones. And they can set up around earlier than normal.
Okay.
So if you are worried about your footprint on the table, you could use this to get around that.
Yeah.
And then finally, Recon Hunter, Scouts 9.
Take a bow, Ravenwing. Take a bow. That's a fantastic little enhancement there, giving your units. I think there's 2 there that are just auto takes.
Yes.
Which is advance and charge, because you've already got fall back and charge, and fall back and shoot, and advance and shoot. So now you can do whatever you want. And then Scouts 9 means that unit will probably be them keeping up with that unit. That's just, it's all coming together, Mike.
Look, there's the potential for an incredible alpha.
Yeah.
With this army. Worth mentioning here, Samael.
Yes.
So Samael, we didn't talk about, he hasn't had any changes, which is why we skipped him.
Yeah, the big man of the Ravenwing himself.
But he does give your unit the ability to shoot and charge in turn which you advanced.
So he gives you advanced shoot and charge as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've now got 2 options, and then we've also got a scouting option. And we've also got a unit that can come in turn 1 from strat reserve without counting towards the limit.
Look, I mean, dive into the masterclass because there's a lot to digest.
Yeah.
This attachment.
Yeah.
But this is one of the strongest alphas.
Oh yeah, hands down.
That you could have in the game, but it will need the right support, and you're going to need to look out for the right weaknesses in the army. But that'll all be in the masterclass.
Yeah, exactly. World Eaters. Unlucky, mate. I'm a World Eaters player, so I don't know why I just said that. Next one. So we've got stratagems, right? We've got 6 stratagems. Armor Contempt's one of them. So what is one of the new ones?
Hunter's Trail.
Okay.
1 CP command phase. You can hold your objective even if you've left it. Also known as sticky objectives.
So we've got sticky objectives in
yes.
there.
Ravenwing mounted.
I was just about to say. So it's only Ravenwing mounted. So that's all the things that we've just mentioned before. Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Right.
Great. I would love for this to happen in the movement phase. So you could drive onto an objective, make it sticky, and then charge off it or something.
That's in the first company task force, right?
That's right.
Yeah. I think, it probably would have made a bit more sense in this one. But still, it's good.
Yeah.
But again, I'd rather just take a unit of intercessors.
For 85 points, you may as well. Saves your CP.
Exactly. Cool. Next one.
The next one's Talon Strike.
Okay.
Now, this one I really, really like. 1 command point, not about tactic, shooting phase or fight phase. Ravenwing mounted unit that is targeting an enemy infantry or mounted character unit. They get +1 to wound. So this could be against maybe one of those Canoptic Wraith units led by a Technomancer. So one of those tough defensive units. or it could be against one of those units that does a lot of damage, because they always tend to have characters leading them.
Well, I think that's a big theme in 10th edition, is the characters buffing a big unit. Like everyone has that anvil unit or that big damage dealing unit and stuff, but it's always got a character in. So it's great to see that you're going to get some benefits from that, which is good.
Next is Death on the Wind. This one, in your shooting phase, you can pick a Ravenwing unit that has just shot. You can force an enemy unit that was hit by that Ravenwing unit to take a battle shock test. And there are a -1 if there's any Ravenwing within 6. This is a battle tactic, but you don't have any ways of using them for free. No. So just watch out for your opponent having like a Vect style ability that makes it cost more CP. To be honest,
I don't think you would when you got Armor Contempt Vect.
Not using this one.
No.
Not really. Battle Shock's not significant enough and it's not reliable.
No, definitely. I mean, it's cool, but the fact you've got to spend a CP to force Battle Shock, that's where my issue comes into it. So yeah, I don't ever think stratagems of force Battle Shock are that good, personally. But anyway, next one.
High Speed Focus.
Okay.
This is 1 CP in your opponent's shooting phase. You pick a Ravenwing unit and they get -1 to be hit.
Yeah.
It is a battle tactic, so do watch out for your opponent making it cost more. Rapid Reappraisal. 1 CP, another battle tactic. Now this one, end your opponent's fight phase, you can pick a Ravenwing unit that's not within engagement range of the enemy, and you can pop them into strategic reserves.
Fantastic. That's a really good one, that.
It is.
Because Storm Speeders now have Deep Strike.
Yes.
And they've got Ravenwing. So you can just take a Storm Speeder off the board and just put it anywhere else, really, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Look at the cheapest speeder you can get available.
Yeah.
Pop it into reserves, bring it back down with Deep Strike. And actually, I think the Storm Speeders are massive tools in the shed for this Company of Hunters detachment.
Yeah, I agree. Overall then, mate, what's your thoughts on the Company of Heroes?
I personally think this is probably the best detachment in the Codex.
Yes.
I think we're in general agreement that this is probably the strongest one.
Yeah,
and that is mainly because the detachment rule affects every model in your army.
Yeah.
So you could have a bunch of Ravenwing supported by Dreadnoughts, Gladiators, and they're all advancing and shooting, falling back and shooting.
Yeah.
So this is a very strong detachment, and it definitely leans into those Ravenwing. A lot to get excited about with those bike-heavy, speeder-heavy armies.
Yeah, definitely. I genuinely think we're going to see this competitively.
Yeah.
I think that this one's going to be really strong. But then I think the Deathwing one also has its merits as well. So I think that these two new detachments, if you're a Dark Angels player, you've got a lot to look forward to with these detachments.
Yeah, it's fantastic because you're not going to look at these and go, oh, I'd rather take this Space Marine one.
No.
These really are unique to you.
Mm-hmm. So let's round out this review, because I think we spoke about a lot of negatives at the start of the video, and we're ending on a bit of a high here. So I think it's best to kind of put it in an overall picture, right? So what are your overall thoughts on this Codex? How do you think it's going to change the way the Dark Angels will play now?
So Dark Angels have traditionally been one of those armies that was not particularly interactive. So lots of Terminators that you can't really kill. Now we're stepping away from that, and it's going to force more interaction between you and your opponent.
Yep.
And actually it's going to force you to take more of a wider variety of units in the army. We've got those inner circle guys. We've got a whole host of units that have the Deathwing keyword. We've got a host of units that have the Ravenwing keyword. Outriders, a battle line. So we're going to see a lot more different builds.
Yeah.
And they're going to play in a completely different way to how Deathwing have played before. Inner circle detachment is not about durability.
No.
It's about damage.
Yeah.
So I really like this change to Dark Angels. There have been nerfs. We have lost Datasheets, which is, it's not great.
No, it sucks if you've had them models and you love them models and stuff, but I think there are ways to include them with these detachments. It's just sad that you're not going to have that exact thing in the book anymore, right?
Exactly. But if you're a Dark Angels player, you will end up playing these detachments, I tell you.
I've been excited just by looking at these two detachments. So hopefully you guys at home, you are excited to play these detachments, play with the new Deathwing Knights, play with all these new models we're getting. So that is the Dark Angels Codex review. Mike, thank you so much for going through that with me. If you have any questions in the comments, put it below. Let us know your thoughts.
Yes. So obviously with every new release, we will be doing a masterclass. So this is going to dive into the detachments, specific key plays, how to use maybe units you haven't thought of in specific ways. And this will be an in-depth breakdown of Dark Angels. Now, if you are a Dark Angels fan, then it's worth subscribing to our masterclass subscription. $30 a month, you get access to all of the masterclasses that have been released thus far. And with the Dark Angels masterclass, we will, of course, be updating the Space Marines one because we've lost a few data sheets, and actually perhaps there's some new detachments that can be looked at based on like Inner Circle Champions or the character Ravenwing Command.
Yeah.
So it's worth having a look at. So yeah, definitely check that out. The link is below.
Awesome. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thank you for joining me today. And guys, hope you've enjoyed the video, and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you in a video very soon.